In this video, I'm going to cover the question, how do you know how long each class takes on Outschool? Okay, many of you might have this question. However, the simple answer is it really depends. And I'll give you a couple different examples as I explain my thought process behind this, having taught on Outschool for over a year now, being focused on it. Now, how long should I teach a class for, right? You have to decide that, right? So what have I done? Let's just start there, right? I teach two different types of classes. I teach a shorter class of 25 minutes and a longer class of 55 minutes, okay? And I have had to tweak the way the classes are a little bit as I teach them, because that way I can make them more beneficial for the learners and also more like how I want to have the class. And some of the classes I just don't want to teach for a whole hour. So I just decide, okay, no, I only want to teach this for a half hour. So sometimes, or for 25 minutes, sometimes it works out that way, right? You'd rather not teach for an hour. Why do I have them at 25 minutes and 55 minutes instead of a half hour and an hour? Well, because this also allows me to have back to back, as many as I want back to back classes without having to hear from anyone that I cut them off on a minute or two of their class because I had to leave, I physically end that class and start the next one. So I don't really feel like dealing with that. So I reserve the right to cut the class 2 or 3 minutes early in order to jump into my next class on time. So that is one little trick that I do. Now, let me just give you a couple examples. So the first example of a longer class, a 55-minute class, would be my graphic design class. Now, teaching graphic design to someone who's never done graphic design before is definitely going to take a lot more time than someone who has been playing around making different things on even a different type of software, right? Like pick some kind of graphics for something. So that leads me to my other variable, where it really depends on what kind of student you get, what experience they have. Some students will completely fly through the class, and other students will take what seems like forever just to understand a simple concept. And that's the way the class will go. And so you just won't get as far. You'll have to continue with the lesson in the next class because you have to end it. So that's like the other major variable that depends on. So it's not just your own preference of how long you want the class to be, but it's also you're going to get some students that just fly through and some students who just get really stuck and need like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 examples of one thing before they can get it. So let's see. So graphic design, right? So I just mentioned that because it typically takes most of the learners that I've had the experience with a lot more time than other things that I teach to learn it, right? To get it, to understand it. And so usually that class needs more than 25 minutes. So you might have a sense of what you need before you teach it, okay? I'm going to give you an example of a class that really didn't work out at all when I started it, right? So I also teach knot tying. Okay, and the first time I listed this class, it was for only 25 minutes. And for some reason, I thought in my mind I could teach, I think it was like 6 knots. It was either 6 or 12, I can't remember now, but there was absolutely no way that I was going to be able to accomplish that. Because if you can imagine, I have a document camera, I'm trying to show my hands tying the knot, and then on the other screen, I'm having to watch the student try to tie the knot. It turned into a nightmare. So basically, because you can't be there holding the person's hands, showing them how the rope ties around, and half the kids had like shoelaces or yarn, so I couldn't even really see the knot very well. So that didn't help at all. So now I had to adjust this class and bring it down to, I have 3 knots now per class, and they're all very easy knots, and that makes it more manageable. Now, I will also admit that I sometimes, even with very slow learners, haven't even been able to completely show them the 3 knots. So it really wasn't that successful. I don't typically teach knot tying anymore because I have found that just teaching knot tying in general over Zoom doesn't really work that well. And so I don't really enjoy it as much as I enjoy the other things because they're more easy to show and explain over Zoom. So that's my overview answer. And what it really comes down to is that you have to just pick a time. It could be 25 minutes, could be 55 minutes, or if you wanted to try something different like 45 minutes, go for it. No problem at all. This is just my system that I use. And really what it comes down to is I can share, I typically prepare for a class that I've never taught before by studying for like 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. You could either be watching videos on YouTube on how to do something new that you didn't know before about what you're about to teach, or whatever it is, like from some source, so that you can have like a pretty sizable amount of knowledge, much more than you knew before, about what you're about to teach, just to kind of set you up for success in case the person you get is very capable and just flies through whatever you had for that lesson, right? So in other words, my other way of saying this is I attempt to over prepare for my classes, right? So over prepare and then do it and then analyze how it went after the class. And you can always change it, right? You can change the class amount time allotted, right? So do that, okay? So if you would like more examples of classes that I have taught and how I figured out how long it took me to teach them, then please do comment below. And if you want some other kind of specific video about Outschool teaching, please let me know in the comments as well. Okay, if you found value in this video, please do boop the like button so that it can reach more people and help more people here on YouTube who are teaching on Outschool or who are just trying to get started on online teaching, because this is just general advice for anyone from any company, working for any company, trying to pick the right amount of time for their class. Now, also, if you like my other videos and want to continue to get content from this channel here with me, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and I'll see you every Wednesday. So with that being said, thanks for checking in this week, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.